you tweeted out that white supremacy kills and said we must and will keep fighting this. Can you give me your sense about why immediately calling this white supremacy and how endemic that issue here is in Canada?
First of all, Evan, I'd like to extend my deepest condolences to the communities, the families, and the victims who have been impacted by this racially motivated shooting in Buffalo. To come back to your question, white supremacy does indeed kill, and we've seen far too many examples of hate-motivated violence motivated by conspiracy theories like the white replacement theory that we deeply, deeply condemn as a hate-filled anti-Semitic theory, conspiracy theory, and we have to do everything that we can as leaders across party lines to condemn this type of dangerous, hate-motivated, conspiracy theories, and we know that these things lead to violence. We've seen far too many shootings in community centers, in places of worship, targeting racialized and religious minorities across both sides of the border. We have to do everything that we can to combat this.
What will that be, though? How will you combat it? You see this in the United States. We've seen it here in Canada. Let's not pretend. I just talked about the Afzal family.
Yeah.
This happens here. You know this. What can be done? What is being done?
First of all, we've taken real action. As you know, we banned military-style assault rifles that have no place in our communities. We've also taken action to protect gathering places, community centers, places of worship, through investments, through programs like the Security Infrastructure Program. We are the government that has taken action to ban 9 groups, hate-motivated groups that pose real dangers to Canadians, including far-right, white supremacist groups. We will do everything that we can to continue to protect Canadians, invest more money at the border to prevent gun smuggling and the importation of dangerous weapons that threaten the security and safety of Canadians. And Canadians deserve to feel safe in their communities and to be safe in places of worship, in community centers, in places where people gather. And hate should be condemned by all leaders.
Look, white replacement theory and replacement theory that Pat King talked about, one of the organizers, but you can watch that openly. Tucker Carlson, the most popular cable television show host in the United States, has openly defended replacement theory, saying it's not racist, it's about voter rights. I want to ask you specifically, do you believe defending replacement theory is hate speech? And if so, how is that available on television? Just what's your view on that?
Well, first of all, in Canada, we know that we have freedom of expression, which is much broader than than freedom of speech. But we also understand in Canada that hate speech has no societal value. Our Supreme Court has said that very clearly. And what I want to say is that, I've been conducting a number of very comprehensive roundtables on combating hate. We're putting together a national action plan to combat hate. And Evan, I wish you joined me in some of those meetings. There is real fear in the community. There's real fear on the ground in many parts across this country when they hear these kinds of really dangerous conspiracy theories that have real-life impact on their safety and on their ability to feel and be safe in communities both large and small in Canada. So our job, our number one priority is to make sure that Canadians not only feel safe, but that are safe and are safe across the country. And that certainly includes every Canadian of every background, of every religion, and so on. And so we're taking action, as I said, and that also includes taking real action against online hate speech, because
it's a fine balance. It's a fine balance, as you know, with the debate. And I don't want to get into the debate about, on a day like this, when there's 13 people shot and 10 people massacred in Buffalo, I don't want to get into a debate about that. But I know that the combating hate speech online is a very politically charged issue, because it gets into where the line is with freedom of expression. But very quickly, you saw what happened to Jagmeet Singh, the leader of the NDP, when he was harassed, very different than what happened in Buffalo. But do you feel, as a minister, and you and I have spoken about this, in the current context, and do other politicians feel more of a threat, and have you taken more precautions from a security point of view?
Well, in terms of what happens online, I mean, you just have to look at the reactions and the comments that are directed to all public office holders in recent years, and you see that. And it's backed by evidence. There's been a 37% increase in hate speech and hate-motivated violence in Canada. According to Statistics Canada, in the first year of the pandemic, there's been an increase in that kind of experience, and that is a reality for far too many Canadians. So that is a real call for action, and in the various meetings that we've had with various communities across the country, that is a message that comes across. So yes, we can have an academic debate about freedom of speech and how far we go, but what is happening online, what is happening through these really irresponsible theories and calls to action based on far-right conspiracy theories is a real and continuing threat against far too many Canadians.
Minister, I really appreciate you joining us, Minister Ahmed Hussen, on this very powerful issue. Thank you for joining us.